and just start. And then, so you're the first guest that I don't know, that I haven't met. And so it's nice. My buddy Trey, that's sitting over there hiding for everybody, is friends with John. And so you're the first guest that I've had that I actually don't know. So it's an honor, right?
Oh man, it's an honor being here, Tommy. I never thought I would make it this far in life.
Well, the thing is people sit across and they go, man, I ask them, well, what makes you feel successful? And one lady goes, I came on your podcast. I'm like, well, all this takes is a little bit of determination and a tiny bit of money, and you can have a podcast. So since you don't know, I'll just tell the story because we're new into all of this. On about January 1st-ish, I thought, man, I'm going to do a podcast.
Hell yeah.
And the reason I was going to do the podcast is because my passion is business and aviation. And I really like hearing entrepreneur stories. And there's really not a ton of us, right? If I tell you to go find if I told you to go find 10 business owners today that you can call.
2 of them are in the room with me.
But there's not a bunch of them. And so I love hearing people's stories of how you started. Why did you decide? And this is what we're going to get to in the next hour and a half. Like, why did you start? How did you decide this? And so that's why Business Under Fire is here. That was January 1st-ish. I think we have 2 episodes out. We recorded about 8 of them. So I am no professional. I'm not even really good at this.
Well, you're pulling it off.
You know, fake it till you make it.
You look professional to me.
We had the guy who did Joe Rogan's studio in here last week.
Wow, nice.
And because I don't know how to design a podcast studio, and you're a computer guy, whereas I avoid using the fucking computer.
Yeah.
But without the producer guy here and without Zamora, one of my partners, I had to learn how to use a computer to move all this shit, get it back over there. So that's the kind of stuff that we're going to talk about is, you know, stuff that you overcame on your journey, what you're doing, how'd you get into this? And then I just chime in on shit that I see relevant and tell our stories until we get bored. And then we go to Burnt Bean Barbecue and eat some badass food.
Well, we better hurry this up then.
So
I need that barbecue.
well, it's 6 a.m. right now. It's not really.
What, you frown upon breakfast barbecue? Is that what this is?
But I did leave Port Aransas at 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and that's when I started thinking about being an entrepreneur and why people do it. You know, a lot of times people say, I'm not driving 30 minutes because I'm not going to go make any money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to drive an hour because I'm not making any money. And so, you know, what's something that you did that took a story that you have where you started some journey with no promise that you just kept going and something panned out?
All right. Well, I mean, on the topic of cars, I do have a car with only 8,000 miles on it that I've had for 10 years. So yes, I am very much against the commute overall. But I started this, circa 2007. I was working at this boring ass day job, and they uninstalled Solitaire on all of the computers. So after a few days, I had nothing to do. Next thing you know, I came to work, and I had made this Solitaire video game that you could access on the web. And within, a couple of days, I started showing it to my friends, showing it to my buddies. They were all playing Solitaire. Within a week, the whole floor of the office building was looking over its shoulder.
Where was that, in Austin?
This was in Ohio, actually. Back where I grew up in Columbus. This is where I went to school at Ohio State University.
Is that where you're from?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah. Where we eat dogs and all that stuff.
That's China.
Yeah. What? Well, step aside, China. There's a new dog eater in town. His name is John Battagline, and he works at 24/7 Games. But yeah, I started doing that, and within a year, I was able to quit my job and start making video games full time.
That is it. What were you doing when you decided to make Solitaire?
Just basic nerd stuff. Just making websites.
When I was cruising here, I was tired, and I thought, wow, well, John's coming, and boy, he's got a game to wake me up. How about some Solitaire?
Yeah, amen. Wake you up, put you to sleep.
So
we're in the middle.
So you have that. How many years ago was this that you created?
So, God, I invented Internet Solitaire in circa 2007. We were the first online solitaire website that I
We're
ever
with
seen.
the dude who invented online solitaire.
Yeah, is that funny?
That's so wild. It's just the way that people, the different avenues that people make money, and how in the hell you created it because you were bored at work.
Amen.
And
Yep.
then when did you say, hey, I think I could make money doing this shit?
Well, it took me about a year before I realized that if I got on the top of Google, somebody Googles solitaire, then you can make a lot of money on advertisements. So after about a year, I started making, I don't even know what it was, like $20 a day. But, when you're a starving college kid, that's all you need.
So you got it onto Google, started running ads on the solitaire.
Yep.
And you're getting $20 a day.
That's where it started. And within, a couple of months, it was doubling pretty regularly. Within, a year, I was able to quit my job. And the rest is history.
How do you spread awareness on solitaire to get the income to start doubling?
Well, when I was doing it, I was literally organically just showing it to people around the office as a start. And I think that kind of got the light bulb above my head, made me realize, hey, this is a business. This is something that people want. But really, our big boom happened when we started to get to the top of Google search. This kind of predated the App Store. This is the only thing anybody had.
This is an 02.
07. Yes, same thing.
Close enough.
Yeah, same deal.
Dang. And then, so how did you take me through the journey of how you grew this business to let you first get out of your normal job and then second grow it and expand it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, after I made, $20 a day, and we let it continue to grow.
You don't need gas in the car.
No.
Because you're only going 8,000 miles in 10 years. So
yeah. Right.
Yeah. You don't need gas.
I was eating packs of tuna like I was homeless on the regular. You got to start small, humble beginnings.
Were you really?
I definitely was.
Holy shit. And, well, at least the gas prices didn't kill you. The tuna didn't kill you.
Well, it might have destroyed some of my organs, but.
And so you dump the normal job and then carry on.
Yeah. So I think the real light bulb moment after the first website was I was bragging about it to a friend's mom. I said, hey, Google solitaire and take a look at who's at the top. And she Googles spider solitaire and she's like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, oh, shoot. We can do this for a bunch of different games.
That was it.
That was it. So then, we started, not just doubling every month, but then we started making more games. And those are doubling every month until after, maybe a year or two, I was making, more money than I had ever made in my life. Certainly more than I was making at my boring desk job.
That is a wild. And did you open an office? Did you do it all out of the house? Who was helping you? Was it just you?
This was all virtual. And this was, virtual before it was cool, right? I started working with a graphic designer. He actually was an old roommate, but he was very talented. And, we worked remotely online, piecing together these video games. Eventually, we got a programmer on board and everybody else. And as we just continued to grow, we were just out of the office working remotely.
And then how did you grow from, how many employees do y'all have now?
Well, they're all technically contractors, but we do have 7 contractors right now. So we're a really small gig, but we do have about 500,000 daily active users.
That is insane.
Yeah. So each one of us is, what is that like, 70,000 daily active users. Each one of us has a football stadium, to represent, like the ratio of contractor to clientele.
And then where are you wanting to grow this? How long has this journey taken you to grow?
Well, it's been about close to 20 years now. And we continue to make new games every month. We started doing all kinds of stuff, seasonal variations, apps, websites, you name it. We've got over 100 websites and, several hundred video games. But as of last week, we actually started having conversations, thanks to Trey, the man in the chair over there, with a company called Waymo that makes these self-driving cars.
Yeah.
And so right now what we're trying to do is we're trying to get our games into these self-driving cars to give people things to do. So not just are they playing games at work when they're bored, like traditionally, but they can play games on the way to work
Right.
in their self-driving cars.
And then the way that you will monetize that is how?
That's a very good question. But where there's a will, there's a way.
Well, I'm guessing it would be through advertising.
I mean, that would be the ideal. Another side gig that we have going on is, well, I had to basically create my own ad network from scratch in order to monetize all of this. We started with Google Ads, and as it turns out, there's a lot of other ways that you can make money through advertisements. And so even though the video games are our actual product, really what it boils down to is we have an ad network that we're actively getting started. And if we could get picked up by something like Waymo or something else, there's maybe potential for that down the road.
Man, that's just the thing is, anytime I meet with, I'm just going to call you what you are, a computer dork. Don't be offended.
What? I prefer .com douchebag.
Well, that too, but not even a computer dork, just a computer nerd. It's like Spanish to me. I didn't really I had a mom. She didn't really care. Computers were just coming out when I was, 8th grade. We were the first computer class.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't pay attention to shit. And so when I meet computer guys that are doing this stuff, it's like speaking French to me. So to me, it's just neat that you can make money doing that stuff when I equate money to kind of like hard labor, landscaping.
You have to work for a living. No,
Yeah.
I mean, Trey was telling me about all the businesses that you have around town. It's like 3 bars, several cafes, several restaurants.
Yep, we've got restaurants, coffee shops. We do real estate stuff, and so it's always been I always have to walk somewhere and do something. I got to deliver a product in person or a service to make money, and you're sitting over there drinking Voodoo Ranger, playing solitaire, making money, and that goes to show you, kids, life's not fair.
Oh, come on. First of all, this Voodoo Ranger was on sale, okay? This was a $2.50 a can, so...
I like that guy because he's a little pilot dude.
Yeah. I mean, just like you, Tommy.
Yeah.
Well, so I think that the difference between me and you is you're what my mother would call a real man, where you where you have actual trade skills. I, on the other hand, I'm kind of more of like a middleman,
But what's happening to me now is the trade skills that I have are morphing into needing computer guys.
Oh, well.
And audio video guys and social media chicks and advertising people to really pump and light the fire on the restaurants. And so one of my biggest challenges has been finding, mediums to get the word out more on the restaurants.
Wow, that's really funny because my shtick is I try to get people traffic on Google.
Yeah.
That's what we do with our video games. So,
well, we need help. And that's one reason, one of the reasons that we're doing this podcast is because I don't have a reason. So I'm doing 52 of them to meet people and see what happens. And that's one of the things that can happen if we do a business deal where we can help increase that. And so it's neat to see that kind of stuff. But it seems like a lot of the stuff in the computer world, I go after it and I fail. Every time I've tried to get websites, I fail. Every time I try to get...
I know what you're talking about. Every time I try to build a birdhouse, just like rats end up moving into it. Like birds don't want to live in it. So I know what you mean. I'm kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum though.
Yeah, well, I'm not doing good at the computer stuff, but we're working on it and trying. And I had to change my thinking to get there. That's one of the things I like is the airplanes.
Oh yeah.
And what business do you tell people you're in?
I tell them I make video games.
So he has to drive traffic to his sites. Yeah. And so what are the parallels for driving traffic to a site?
Well, you as somebody who owns a number of restaurants or cafes or bars, I mean, you have product, you might have food. And for me, that's kind of like the video games. That's the product that people come to see. but how do you get asses in the chairs? How do you get people through the door? That's like really where the business sense comes in. And Trey was telling me, I mean, you're a remarkable extrovert. You know, you're talk of the town. You go around, you're always drumming up business because that's just the kind of person that you are.
I call it panning for gold.
That's funny.
I'm always just mining for prospects.
Amen.
I listen to I went to the bank the other day and the guy's telling me about their social media that they need help with because they don't have it. They need a golf cart. I'm like, well, I'll buy a golf cart if you sign a 2-year contract to rent it out for this much a month, and we can put our social media. But I'm always mining for opportunities because that's what you have to do when you're an entrepreneur. Nobody's going to throw anything in your lap.
I mean, that's the fascinating thing about who you are as a person is you're so extroverted, you know, that you can constantly pan for gold. Versus me, I'm more of an introverted person. Now, I like to do my podcasts, but after this, I'm going to have to go home and sleep for a week.
Yeah.
Just to recharge my battery, my social battery.
Yeah.
So, you know, the parallels are kind of there in just very different ways. I mean, instead of getting people through the door like you have to do, like physically meeting them, talking to them, drumming up publicity on a local level, I'm more about like, how do I break this online forum? How do I stick a screwdriver in Google so that it doesn't know who to fucking show up anymore except for me? And it's a little bit more of an introverted, hackery sort of task.
I met with a guy that does that for a company that gets people out of their timeshares. This company's in Nashville, and they do about $150 million a year in revenue.
Amen.
And they get people out of timeshares. And the guy, he was nerding out. It was the guy's son, but this is what he likes. He likes putting the screwdriver in to Google, to metrics, to the hook, getting everybody to go and start using their stuff. So how do you do that on a video game level to get people to start using these games?
Well, there's a lot of tricks and tips that you can employ to just take a website and make it Google friendly. Really, really simple stuff. You know, I always tell people whenever they make a website, give me 15 minutes of your time, and within a month, your stuff will be showing up on Google. Little things like just the way that you structure a web page.
15 minutes to make a website to get on it that'll go on Google.
Exactly, 15 minutes.
And I've been trying for 5 fucking years.
Oh man, I will. Thank you. I mean, I would love to have 15 minutes of your time.
You're gonna get it.
Yeah.
And all I'm gonna do is feed you some burnt bean barbecue and just sit there and stare at you.
Oh yeah, you're gonna
talk with your mouth full.
I'm gonna be sucking on my fingers and nerding out about all the ways that you can improve your website.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't even have a website for some of our businesses. That's how bad it is.
See, that's 1 minute of 15 minutes is get a website. I just repeat that over and over again for 60 seconds.
Yeah, it's terrible. I think we have a couple of them, but they're nothing to speak about. They're not driving traffic. They're not doing what a website should do. And so what else do you specialize in and getting these people to your...
Well, it's not just about search engine optimization. It's also about, you know, creating a quality product. You know, it's about creating a community around it so that you can, you know, get people interested in it, give people a sense of ownership so that they kind of spread it to their friends and family. And it's also a little bit of black magic.
Oh, that's a great. It's just a whole nother level. And so are you, because you started on the video games, are you going to stay on the video games for good? Or are you looking to branch out into other ways? Do y'all have any consulting guys within? Do y'all go do this with other businesses? Like, can we whore you out anywhere?
Yeah, I would love it if you would try. Yeah, I would love to be whored out. It's actually kind of one of the reasons why I came here. No, yeah, we're constantly on the lookout for other B2B opportunities, you know, business to business opportunities. You know, like I mentioned earlier, you know, with Waymo and trying to get our, you know, games on various devices and stuff. But yeah, video games have always been a passion of mine. You know, when I was potty trained as a child, I remember my parents always trying to get me to, you know, take a dump on the toilet. You know, pretty topical, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like what I did in your trailer just before this.
With frozen water in the toilet, but I've got...
that's a new trick for me.
Yeah.
That's a new trick. It worked.
Well, we try to save popular people's fecal matter.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. It could be valuable someday. I'm always trying to turn shit into gold. But yeah, like from the earliest memories that I have, my parents, I was always a video game nerd. My brother's 10 years older than me. He's always loved video games. It's always been just a primary passion of mine. And, some people are into food, some people are into drinks. I'm into solitaire and mahjong, poker.
I don't even know what mahjong is.
Mahjong?
Mahjong.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is.
Well, it's a Chinese tile game, kind of like in Ohio where we eat dogs.
Yeah.
It's a similar. There's the tie-in there, But mahjong is it's a Chinese tile matchmaking game. So.
And then what other games do y'all have? You have 150 games?
Oh, more than that, yeah, easily.
And your contractors and your guys design all of these games.
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, I love the product, so nothing goes off the line without me playing it extensively, hundreds of hours. But if you Google poker, we're at the top of that, beating World Series of Poker, beating, Zynga and all the others. Backgammon, we're at the top of that. Backgammon's like a 2,000, 3,000-year-old game. Checkers, blackjack, solitaire, mahjong, spider solitaire, free cell, minesweeper. It just, you name it. If it's a game that you played with your grandma, we're probably at the top of Google for that.
It just blows my mind the way that people can create income. And then, so once you get these games going, when you started getting checks, who pays you for these games and advertising? Where do your paychecks come from?
So that's an excellent question. So one of the easiest ways to monetize a website is just to put advertisements in it. You don't have to ask people to open their wallets up. You just know that a small fraction of them are going to watch a video or click on a little square, and you make a quarter or $1, just depending on what happens. So all of our video games have advertisements. We're trying to make them, not a big deal, on the right side of the game. And in some certain, it's kind of like a collection plate. If you find an ad and you like it and you want to click on it, we make a quarter. Pop another quarter in that game of Space Invaders. And the next level from that is, instead of just working specifically with Google, where you're dealing with a single individual, like a single bidder, we've started increasing our competition with a number of different bidders. So we have AppNexus, we have Rubicon, we got 20 different bidders, 20 different Googles, if you will. So that when people come to your website, it's not just Google showing the ads, it's 20 different people bidding over who's going to get that advertisement space. And that's really where you start to increase your gains.
Dang, that is just wild. And everything is set up with you and your contractors on the back end to have these people start bidding on stuff.
Yeah, well, slowly but surely you build the mansion out of one brick at a time.
That is just, it doesn't ring in my head. But it's because I don't know how to code anything. I don't know how to do.
No, man, it's because you're too busy flying planes and being the coolest guy in town.
Not really.
I get it. I'm just the man on the basement, kind of like slapping at a keyboard and looking over my shoulder.
Do you have three screens in front of you?
I have 6 keyboards and 20 screens.
Are you kidding?
No, yes, absolutely. I'm serious. All in one space.
What metrics does John have, and how do you look at that for growth?
So that's a really good question, and that's a loaded topic. But yes.
Where do you get your metrics?
Well, we get our metrics primarily through Google Analytics. On websites, they're kind of the golden standard for where you go in order to just get basic information. And our primary metric is, of course, traffic. Now, traffic doesn't necessarily mean that you make money off of it. There's other advertisement-based metrics, like how much money you get per click. But the first thing you want to do is get traffic. And the second thing you want to do is have duration. So,
time.
Exactly. Just like, with a restaurant, right?
We want them in and out. But we do want them to finish their meal. Y'all get paid the longer that they sit there, don't you?
Absolutely. So I guess there is actually a fundamental difference there between the electronic side and the physical side. When a restaurant, you want to have turnover. But in a video game or in a website, you actually want to have duration. You want people to stay there as long as possible, because the longer they're there, the more advertisements you serve up, the more money you make.
And so what are y'all doing for growth on that, like you said?
Well, that's kind of the name of the game. I mean, you can always spend $1,000 or $100,000 getting a bunch of clicks to your website. But what does that really translate to insofar as long-term like growth and how much money are you going to make off of that in the long term? So what we really try to focus on is taking something that exists. For example, a video game that has like a long duration. Our longest duration, I think, is like an hour and a half.
Because then they've got the ads running over there for an hour and a half.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and when we have something that works, we try to kind of replicate it, but change one little thing about it.
Mm-hmm.
So here.
Have y'all hit the nail on the head on what works? I was in Nashville last week with the guy who they spend $100,000 a week on paid ads.
Oh, yeah.
And he was saying that they come up with these ideas, they try them, they think they're brilliant, flops.
Mm-hmm.
Other stuff, they're like, well, let's just give it a spin.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes off. So have y'all found out what works, or is that the same scenario?
What you just described is the process, man.
Oh.
Yeah, you gotta, you know, it doesn't matter how much thought you put into something, you gotta prove it. You gotta try it out. And sometimes the silliest things you can think of.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That you get, I guess you got people that just think they're geniuses at marketing, and you throw shit out there and it sticks, and you put all this time and effort into something.
And it's the intern bringing you coffee who is like, what if we turn this into from brown into black? And the next thing you know, you're making $1 million.
That is, it's funny that, just so you know, maybe it'll make you feel better. They're having the same problems on the East Coast as you are in Austin with that.
That feels good, man.
Which is it, and it's a huge company. They're doing $150 million a year, which is nothing to shake a stick at.
Amen.
So that's interesting that those two things came together.
Yeah, I think what's really cool about that is this idea that you could take something relatively systematic and then you can replicate it. So once they do crack that nut, figure out, hey, this is how you're going to do it. Now you can repeat that process 1,000,000 times.
But how long does that last?
That's a good question. I mean, for us, about 15 years so far.
Dang.
But yeah.
Man. What else do we have? What are some other goals that you have in your business that you're working on besides the self-driving cars?
Well, you know, really my number one goal was to get on your podcast, Tommy. I mean,
that was easy.
I don't know what to do next. Where do I go from here is the question we're all asking.
Yeah.
So, you know,
wouldn't it be wild if this took off for some reason?
I think it will take off.
I don't know what's going to happen with it.
I believe in a universe where this is going to take off. This is going to be the single podcast that's going to blow it out of the water. You're going to get Elon Musk here next week.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I would enjoy that. I would enjoy that. And I don't know what part of what I really like about this is I do have zero expectations. But the other thing is
well, that's good for me today.
Yeah. You can't muck this up. So either way, we're eating good barbecue after this. So
Amen.
Today's going to be a win. And Trey's one of my good buddies. So it's good that we get to hang out for, 3 or 4 hours. And that's been one of the things about this podcast that I really like is I get to bring people in here. Nobody gets to see airplane hangars like this. Like this is completely different from what's normal, but it's normal in my life.
This is the coolest airplane hangar I've ever been in.
Then it has to be the only one you've been in.
How would you know? How would you know?
But it's neat to show people this because, again, passion is general aviation and business. So people don't know that you can come to the airport. I live about a mile from here. Get in your airplane and fly anywhere in the U.S. by driving a mile and coming to your own airport. And so I love showing that off, not just for the podcast stuff. I just like to deliver that information to people.
I mean, I think that's fascinating for a lot of different reasons. I mean, I'm not somebody who flies planes. I'm not somebody who I think is even capable of flying a plane.
Yeah.
But I respect it, and I would love to learn more about it because to me, that represents freedom.
It is freedom. They say a mile of runway will take you anywhere in the world, and a mile on the roadway will only take you a mile. So it will take you anywhere. It is freedom. That's how I move throughout Texas, and Lubbock is where a couple of my restaurants are. Well, that's a 7-hour drive from New Braunfels. And by the time you get to Lubbock, you're beat. And I don't mind the drive. I've done it probably 600 or 700 times. No shit. And I stopped counting at 400. I said, look, this is enough. Well, if you fly, it's an hour and 35 minutes.
Wow.
You have all day in Lubbock. You're not completely beat. So I've combined my passion of aviation with work, which is what I always wanted to do. But we need to figure out a way to get more advertising. So when I get on a plane, I can turn to the right and go in the back and enjoy it instead of having to go into the front and fly it. So
man,
I want to be able to fly when I want, but riding in the back of a nice private airplane
that's the goal. That is the
pretty
entrepreneurial dream. That is the modern entrepreneurial dream, is being able to fly private.
It is their dream. And I'm lucky that I fly part-time for a living on Citations, which are nice little planes. But man, when there's a trip where whoever the pilot or co-pilot is like, hey, just go sit in the back, Richard, I'll go sit back there. I'm like, this is wonderful.
Amen.
And to them too, we get to spoil the other guys too. And I always bring them nice, nice barbecue sandwiches, whatever to feed them.
Hope you got a bathroom on that plane.
That's not frozen.
Just kidding. No, I mean,
I have a really good story about a bathroom on the plane with my buddy Todd Walker. I'm going to leave it at that because as soon as he sees this and hears that, he will say, do not ever tell that story. But we will tell it at lunch for sure. It is a great story of how we had a 5-hour flight and 20 minutes in, I call him Uncle Todd, is undoing his belt buckle. I said, Todd, we got 5 hours to go. What good do you think undoing your belt buckle is going to do for 5 hours?
Relieve a little pressure on the pucker. You know what I mean?
We're going to leave that story alone because it is a great one that lasted all 5 hours.
That's amazing.
Poor Todd.
That's amazing.
Two of the things that John and I, or one of the things we have in common is that when we have an idea, we take action. And so can you give me an example of that or describe how that works in your brain?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a fundamental component to any entrepreneurial adventure. I mean, there's so many people out there with brilliant minds, and they just, for whatever reason, get decision paralysis.
I call those guys wantrepreneurs.
Oh.
They always want to. And one of the things that annoys the shit out of me is when you see the same person over and over and over for years. And I'm like, and they have the, hey, I'm gonna. And
dude, get off the bar stool and go do it.
Like, just do it.
Go do it.
And one of my buddies say the planning phase is where dreams go to die. And I would say that just like we use this podcast as an example, it was an idea. So we mentally created it in our head, and then we went to physical action and just did it. And you know, the consequences of these things not working out to me are more detrimental than not doing them.
Amen.
So,
yeah, I think it's a little bit about trying to find things that if you fail, it's not a big deal. It's not a huge risk. No, you don't want to go and bet the farm all on black. But yeah, if you ain't out there doing something, you're just destined to be an entrepreneur.
What is the biggest gamble that you've taken on something that you were like, oh, shit?
Well, I'd have to say that quitting my job in the trough, the nadir of the recession, circa 2010, was a pretty big gamble for me. I remember I had been at this time, running my business on the side for a couple of years. I still had this job, a day job that was kind of keeping me afloat. And I looked at the numbers and I said, I'm going to do this full time. So I quit my job. And I remember talking to, my wife's parents. And I said, hey, I quit my job to go make video games. And I'll never forget her my mother-in-law's reaction was, can you get the job back? and I was like, I don't think so.
No, I went out with 2 fingers in the air.
Yeah, right. I was ready to go. But at the end of the day, I mean, at that point, I had already had a stable income coming in, and it was really just about me taking that time that I was spending at my my work and reapplying it to myself.
What does a gamble or an investment look like to you on your daily operations? Like, for example, for me, it'd be we're going to add a big patio onto this restaurant in hopes that we get more business. What does that look like to you?
That's a really good question. I mean, I think for me, it's more about time investment. It's about diverting my attention towards things that are going to be larger projects. Kind of going back to, you don't want to necessarily, like General Patton said, a violent plan today is better than the perfect plan tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you do kind of need to plan things out. And so for us specifically, it would be launching a new product that is going to be a serious time investment that, we don't really know if it's going to pan out or not.
So when you guys have if you were going to roll out a new product, your investment would be in your contractors for time, energy, effort to get that product launched.
Oh, absolutely. But also just the momentum, the psychological energy that goes into doing something like that. I mean, if you got 7 guys looking to you, 7 guys and girls looking to you who are, they believe in you. You're the captain of the ship. The fish are over here. You don't want to take them to a place where there's nothing to get. Yeah. It's just, and so the idea is, I'll give you a real quick example. We're doing this Waymo thing right now. We're trying to get our games in Waymo cars. We previously had a deal with a company called Fisker Automotive. The guy who designed the Aston Martin vehicle, he decided to make his own electric vehicle company. We spent months working with these people, getting our games to work on their car, and it all worked out great. Everything looked perfect. And then they went bankrupt.
So you paid people for years.
Months. It was about 6 months of time.
Damn.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, paying people is one thing, getting that monetary hit. Yeah, that's a black eye.
Mm-hmm.
But I think bigger than that is just the psychological impact of people seeing, that failure. They're looking to you for guidance. And
I try to tell people that we don't fail, we learn.
Exactly.
And because as an entrepreneur and working, there's so many times that we get a black eye. Amen. Or there's so many times that stuff for me, it's if we put out food or specials or we try to throw an event and it doesn't work, and it's a learning opportunity. So if we take the term failure out of our bank, when it comes to work, then we learn. And some lessons are tough to learn. I mean, you learned a 6-month lesson, but I've done projects before. Everybody goes, Tommy, everything you touch turns to gold. Well, I've done several projects that did not work. And that was the conversation that I was having last night with one of my business partners. I said, look, we've been doing this together for 15 years. We've done several projects. So now when we look at them and we're looking at these opportunities, all the knowledge that we've gained from all of those black eyes and falling and we're really turning over stones and looking at all the details to see if it fits what our mold is. And those, all the things that we're looking for and all the red flags that you're looking for are all from failures.
Amen. And because of that learning experience with Fisker, this provides us with an opportunity to get our games in Waymo cars. Fisker is a company nobody's heard about. Waymo is a company that might be the new Uber.
Heard it. Yeah, that reminds me of a story of not a failure, but a time where I had a buddy looking for marketing stuff, and he was coming and digging through the phone book and calling for landscape stuff for us for months. And he literally went through the phone book for months. And this is a story of someone, entrepreneur's journey that we sat there and just panned for gold for months and months and months. And after 3 months, we got 2 phone calls. This dude showed up every day for 4 or 5 days a week, and we got 2 calls answered. One of those calls was a company that we ended up doing full lawn service for, landscaping for about 15 years.
Wow.
So while you're sitting there going, this isn't working, look what we found. And I remember that company paid my mortgage for years and years and years. So they're not failures, and it's not a waste of time. And a lot of people just quit right before, what if you would have quit at Fisker and then Waymo never even Kurt, and what happens if Waymo hits?
What happens if Waymo hits? And if Waymo doesn't hit, then we'll hit the next one.
Yeah.
You know?
How do you get into Tesla?
Yeah, that's well, you got to get Elon on this show for that one.
We need to get him. How do we get his attention?
Oh, I think we have to go set a Tesla on fire outside.
That's paid advertising. Do you have that in your budget to do?
I have a Tesla burning budget.
Let's go get one. We could get we only have to get it here.
Yeah. He shows up in a helicopter and surprise, you're on camera. Come on inside.
Can you mention the name of our restaurants too, Elon? Oh, burning a Tesla. It's in the advertising budget, guys. Go get it. That'd be a nice budget.
Yeah.
I need one of those.
I think it's just, the painting for gold is a beautiful metaphor. The idea that like we live in this society where everything is so cheap, everything is so fast, everything is so transactional that if you don't pay $3 and get a cheeseburger right now, you're upset. Something went wrong. And that is just contrary to the idea of like, sometimes you gotta try it 100 times to get that one success that's really gonna pay your mortgage.
What do you say to those guys and gals that are watching Facebook and Instagram reels and all this shit that think they're going to be an entrepreneur and it just happens overnight?
I mean, I think that there's merit to it in a practice kind of way. By doing that sort of thing, you're learning how to build an audience. You're learning how to work for yourself. But I do think that right now we have this over-aggrandized perspective on people who are on social media. These people aren't paying their mortgages on social media. They're making money for Mark Zuckerberg. They're making, 80% of that money is not going to their wallets. It's going to other people's. So even though it's a great area to practice and to learn, I think that your number one goal when you're doing something like that is to like, how am I going to turn this into something for myself, rather than just bending the knee.
The look at me phase is so odd to me on Instagram and Facebook and stuff. Most of the time when I go get in a jet, I don't want any picture of it. None of it.
I can't agree with you more.
I drive old shitty cars. I might have bought a nice one the other day, but my shitty car broke down. But I'm ready to go. I got a nice car and I'm ready to just go get a Suburban instead of driving it around.
That's a shame because if you wanted another old shitty car, I have a 10-year-old Jeep Wrangler with 8,000 miles on it.
I like old shitty cars. We could park it at the airport somewhere and it would live forever.
Can I park it in your hangar for free for a day or two?
Yeah. Will it be a year or 5?
Maybe 3.
Does it run?
When you put a new battery in it, it does. Yeah.
Is the battery dead on it now?
Yes, it is.
So how do you get around?
I, for the most part, just kind of walk. Sometimes I Uber. You can never tell.
Everywhere. Does your wife drive?
Yeah, my wife drives.
So she carts you. So really,
yeah, a little bit.
Technically, you might be the wife.
You know what? Just because my wife drives me around and wears the pants and makes all the decisions for me does not make me the wife, okay? I want you to understand that.
Oh, I'm scared to ride with people driving. I got in a lot of car wrecks when I was a kid with other people driving, so I don't like driving, or I don't like riding that much. So I'm always on the lookout. But I will. There's a few people that are good drivers that I'll cruise with. It's Battagline.
But, Battagline.
John Battagline sounds like a guy that does video games for a living.
Thank you.
It does.
Yeah.
That's not even a made up name.
Plays a lot. That's a real name.
Yeah.
Battagline, born and raised.
Give us your overview from a outside looker in of what 24 Games is.
Okay. So 20 years ago, I started a company where I was 80 grand in college debt working for the man. Within a year, I quit my job and I was working for myself. And within 5 years, I was making, $500,000 a year. And this is with a company of, 7 contractors. And they're all extremely talented people. And the sky's the limit. I think the idea here is that we just need to keep leveraging what it is that we have to try to create the next thing.
And then how do you keep that growth going and make sure that the repetitive or recurrent income keeps coming?
The nice thing about websites is, like a restaurant, you create consumer habits where people want to keep going back to the same thing. The difference between a website and a restaurant is that a website has unlimited capacity. A restaurant might only have 100 seats. You got to make another restaurant. You got to make another location, if you will. With a website, you don't have those problems. You can just keep growing it over time. And the nice thing about our games in particular is, unlike most video games where they have an explosive growth at the beginning and it tapers off, our games are more functional. They're timeless: solitaire, poker, checkers. These are things that are going to stick around 40 years from now, and they were 40 years old. So we don't have to worry about people jumping ship to the next one.
How do you improve or grow your revenue on these things? Let's say you did want to go, hey, next year we want to grow revenue 30%. What are you doing?
This is the name of the game. This is what we're doing all the time. I mean, there's really two ways to do it. You either serve more food or you increase the cost of the food, increase the exclusivity. You know, in our circumstance, we're either increasing our traffic, making more games, or just getting more traffic to go to our games, or we're making more money off of every single individual user.
Do y'all have any paid ads, or is it all organic?
We, 2 years ago, I could have told you that I've never paid for a single ad in my life, but I did experiment with it. I dropped, 20 grand, and I didn't get anything.
Nothing happened.
Nothing at all. But that's not to say that other people can't figure it out. With our particular business, we deal with such large volumes of people and such skinny margins per user.
How many people do you have playing these games on average a day?
500,000 people, more than 500,000 people a day are playing our games. So right now, if I went to our website, you would see, at least 100,000 people, because it's the middle of the day playing our website. So that's more people than would fit in a professional football stadium, right?
And all over the world?
All over the world. Yeah.
So you're a worldwide business owner.
Global entrepreneur.
Isn't that wild?
John Battagline. Yeah.
That is crazy to think about. I wanted to do, we have buddies in England and London, and I wanted to do 1 or 2 projects over there just so I could say
you should.
that I did work in another country. And maybe somebody will pay me to come and do business consulting or something with them in another country. I would love that.
If I lived in England, I would definitely pay you for business consulting.
But you are a global entrepreneur.
A global entrepreneur. I had to do it twice. Yes, we are technically a global entrepreneur. Now, I mean, there's some places like China where, they've got a lot of black boxes that prevent you from entering them, and at the end of the day, 60% of our audience, 65 is American exclusively. And for our business, that suits us well because advertisements are mostly an American thing. It's mostly English speaking, and it's propagating out to other countries, but
so the advertising is not as big in, say, Ireland or...
Well, Ireland is a pretty big advertising hub. Anything that's English speaking is great. But the further out you get from English, the harder it is to sell advertisements. You got to come up with different creatives, different language, different
Who's
cultures.
coming up with all that stuff at your company?
I mean, right now, nobody. But we're trying to figure that out, So
what a challenge to overcome. I like the different size problems. Like today, the lawn guy's pissed off. The local landscaper's mad because his ripcord broke on his weed eater.
Yep.
And you're trying to figure out how to advertise in Zimbabwe for clicks on solitaire.
Yes, all day, every day. I'm talking Zimbabwe, and I want it. The pool guy shows up and he turns off the heater and my pipes burst, and that's a bad day.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Or frozen pipes are a bad day.
I've never seen frozen pipes around here.
We did today. What an interesting thing. This is why we have this on. We have our first ever global entrepreneur.
Global. Entrepreneur.
So you never have to go. You never have to go anywhere. You don't have to go meet people in another country for these ads. All Zoom.
It's all Zoom. I try to meet people on their respective schedules, but there gets a certain point where I just, I hate to say it, but if you live in a time zone that's 10 hours away, like I can't stay up till 3 a.m. to have a conversation with you. You got to get somebody to talk to me,
Who are the advertisers that are advertising on these games?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about specific companies, it's like Disney, ESPN, Coca-Cola, literally anything that you would see on TV.
And did they just contact you when they saw this, or did you have...
That's a really good question. So there's a lot of advertisement middlemen. So I'm not going out to Coca-Cola or ESPN and saying, hey, I want to do, no, if I did that, I'd probably be making a lot more money. But instead, we have these middlemen who are these sort of advertisement networks, which you can think of as like Google. Google ads. And they'll go out and they'll do all the legwork. They'll go out and talk to Coca-Cola, talk to ESPN, and they'll say, hey, we'll serve up these ads, but we're going to take a cut. So what we do is we get like 10 of those guys, 10 Googles, if you will. And then what ends up happening is they compete with each other. Well, I'll pay $1 for this ad. Well, I'll pay $1.10. Well, I'll pay $1.25. And the highest bidder is the one who takes the cake.
That's who y'all sign a contract with?
Yeah, but ultimately, the best situation is if you had an individual deal with every single person that you're advertising for. It's just the technology and the capacity is just not there today. We still have to deal with these middlemen. But regardless, it is a tremendous boost in income to be able to have multiple middlemen bidding on your advertisement real estate.
So if somebody came into your company and said, hey, man, I'm going to go directly after these guys that were already running ads with us.
Oh, I would absolutely take it.
What?
Yeah, it's called a direct deal.
I would be looking for that person. We already advertise with, I can find you a beautiful girl from Texas. Well, you need a smart one. You need a smart one that can talk on the phone.
Say about Texas?
No, it was going to be Texas Tech.
Oh,
a beautiful marketing girl from Texas Tech. It's like every blonde girl that walks up at the bars is like, they either say, I'm a social marketing manager or I'm in marketing, social media or marketing. But that girl could go work for you and make a killing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is that because of social media, there are a lot more avenues that are open to women for things like, Instagram entrepreneurs. I mean, the problem is that there are people who are still taking the vast majority of their paychecks. They're Instagram pimps. I mean, Instagram is a pimp.
Instagram is a pimp. I never thought about that. Same with Face Trash.
But yes, but at the end of the day, I mean, it is providing women with access to be able to be their own bosses. And I think that's a very powerful thing. What I want to see is more women take that as a start and then go off to create their own social networks, go off to create their own media access, go off to basically be their own bosses without that Instagram. Well, Mark Zuckerberg over their shoulder taking 80% of their profits.
Yeah. Man, they do take a lot, but they provide a very large platform.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you can just go, you can post something on Facebook and it be throughout the world in less than 5 seconds.
This is true.
And so they do provide quite a service that would be hard to get anywhere else.
They provide a valuable service, but at the end of the day, they're doing it for their own self-interest, and you should too. You should take that and you should create your own business out of that traffic. If you've got 1 million users on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, you can make $1 million a year. You just don't know how to do it yet, but you need to figure that out.
1 million users will pay you $1 million a year?
I think so. I think actually if you really knew what you were doing, you could make a lot more than that. Yeah, but I know from the numbers that people who have 1 million users on Facebook and Instagram, they're making a fraction of that.
I've got a buddy that's down. He runs a kind of a community page, and this has been a conversation for a couple of years. He's got 50,000 followers on there, and we cannot think of any way to monetize that.
Oh, yeah. 50,000 is a tough number because it's an amount that it really is valuable. It really is useful. But
he's hitting millions of impressions a month. But how is there a way to take a Facebook page and monetize that with that amount of impressions? Can we run video games on there?
We've tried. Yeah.
Did it work?
Yeah, kind of. Facebook has some things in place that make it hard to really monetize for yourself. Now, it's really great for conversions. I'm trying to sell a product. Great. You click on an ad, you buy it. That's awesome. But we were talking about like trying to drive people to a website. It's very difficult because Facebook doesn't let you leave the website.
Oh, and you've got to get them to leave.
Yeah.
That's why it stays on Facebook when you click on anything.
Bingo.
Which is why I click out right away and then go to the other website because it runs faster.
Now, you're a sophisticated user.
Not really.
I mean,
but I do. As soon as I click on it, pops up and I see the Facebook thing, I open the other website and go that way because I don't want to be on there.
You hear that, people? Do that. Click out of Facebook.
Click out.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that this shit goes by in an hour because it feels like 20 minutes.
Yeah, man.
And then you lose track of time in here.
Yeah.
I've been sitting here in the middle of the night and you're like, is it 3 p.m.? And you walk outside and it's just pitch black. What else would you like to share?
Tommy, I would like to share how grateful I am to be on your show today.
Your first podcast.
My baby's first podcast.
Yeah. So this is, does this mean that you've made it?
I've officially made it.
We can.
Where do I go from here?
I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a great. Well, I guess we'll just wrap it up then. It is a good. I mean, there's so much stuff that I could still keep going on, but
shoot it
I
out
mean,
if you want to.
Just the commitment stuff, like examples of how that happens, of when you come up with an idea and keep running it. That's gold for people. I mean, it happens for me, and we have stupid ideas that just don't work. We fall, and then we have other ones, just like we discussed, that just take off and you keep going.
The bread and butter is stupid ideas. Everybody thinks an idea is stupid until they're working for you. And yeah, that's the idea. I talk to Trey all the time about how if you can make $1, you can make $1 million. If you got a product and you can make a single sale, you know that you've got an idea here that can really be the next big thing. The problem is like, how do you separate the wheat from the chaff? You know, and I think the only way to do that is just to try it, just to do it.
You gotta trudge through a lot of shit to get there, no matter what it is. That's why we go back to the Instagram stuff. That's just crazy. Like, I mean, I kept thinking about me getting here today when I left this morning at 5:30, and like, that's the kind of stuff that if you're gonna go work for yourself, you have to do.
Amen.
I'm excited to see you and Trey and hang out. Will we get any business out of this? Who knows? Will people listen to it? Who knows? But we made a commitment and we stuck with it. I committed to you and Trey that I'd be here. I committed to myself that I'd do 52 of these things, which really I could knock one of those off because we just keep getting closer to that goal. And then committing, following through, and seeing your idea to a finish is what separates the men from the boys, whether it's going to be a good one or not.
Amen.
But completing them. And I always complete tasks. I don't leave shit open, and it doesn't sound like you leave anything open.
I try not to.
See it to conclusion and keep trucking. And then you can have 6 computer screens, a pool,
3 keyboards,
a personal driver,
12 mice.
Do you really have 3 keyboards?
I have so many keyboards.
Yes. Are they lit keyboards?
Oh yeah. One of them is an RGB. One of them is just a ergonomic, and the other one's a normal one, just so that I know what it was like growing up.
I like those keyboards that make the loud clicking noises.
Amen. Yeah, those are the ones. Yeah. Mechanical keyboards.
Yeah.
Mechanical keyboards.
Well, we'll go bail out to lunch, but John Battagline could not be a better video game guy's name.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the story. If you are going to go play any video games online, you need to go to 247 games. Is it .com?
It's a .com.
247games.com and click on all of the ads and stay on them for a long time.
Yeah.
That way John can get Trey gas to drive him back here for round 2.
It's going to pay for gas. It's going to pay for brisket. It's going to pay for everything.
I usually buy the barbecue, but hey.
Hey.
Anyway, we enjoyed it. This is Business Under Fire. If you need to get a hold of John for anything, how do they find you?
Just go to 247games.com. There's a support link on there.
Are you the
Contact me.
support?
No, I have a guy who sounds just like me, but okay. Sure.
Can they find you through the website, or you got to go through some firewalls?
No, they can find me right there. I do have a guy who answers every single email. We take it very seriously, so we would love to hear from you.
What do these people email you on?
Oh, man, don't even get me started on that.
Really? They're pissed off at the game?
That's for the next podcast. Yeah, there are so many people that hate the game, and they complain about it, but they secretly love it.
You're looking at their screen time. You're like, look, Ms. Jones.
When you
Ms.
write
Jones.
every day, all day for like a year and a half, yeah, I think you like the video game. But
So they can email John at 247games.com. They can find him if they need anything. If you ever need me for anything, it's Tommy at Business Under Fire. We appreciate you being here. Let's go get some good lunch.
all right, thanks, Tommy.
Yeah, thank you.